teachers of Reddit, what is the worst parent conference you've ever had? I had a student fail my class, and I thought that I'd been emailing with their parents throughout the semester. Turns out the parents did not speak English and relied upon their children to translate for them. Their oldest sibling was studying abroad, so the student was able to hide everything from the parents. Once they came home, the jig was up. The parents could not believe their child had lied for months, so we had a face-to-face meeting. It was so awful to see their faces crumble in shame and humiliation as their oldest child translated the meeting. I teach 7th grade, and the one that stands out to me was from my second year in the classroom. Probably it sticks in my mind because I didn't feel confident in my job yet, so this interaction I had with a family threw me for a loop. Once, I had a struggling student come in with their family, and I was so eager to talk to his family. I was hoping that we could have some kind of constructive conversation that would lead to the kid's improvement in my class. I had pulled up their grades to explain why he had a D in my class and what he needed to work on to bring his grade up. Next thing I knew, the parents started completely berating the kid, calling him stupid and lazy, telling him that he was a failure. It was horrible. Even worse, the kid was on the autism spectrum, so he just really didn't have the kind of emotional stability to handle something like that. Heck, I don't know what 7th grader would be able to handle something like that. He started crying, and his parents apologized to me, and led him out into the hallway where they continued to berate him. It was rough. I tried to smooth things over by talking them through the kid's strengths, but they just wouldn't be deterred. The kid was sitting on the ground in the hallway just sobbing next to the lockers, and his parents just left, presumably to go conference with more teachers. I tried to console the student, but I don't think there was much I could have done. He was just completely heartbroken. I had to tell a well-known gang leader that his son was failing my class. Actually went better than expected, but the anticipation was a bitch. That sounds cool, but at the same time nerve-wracking. I wonder his child is doing now. I was talking to the parent of a kindergarten student and telling her ways she could help her child at home. She suddenly said, "Do you get paid to do this?" I said, "Oh, yeah." She said, "Well, I don't." Then swiped all the papers off the table, stood up and walked out. Not quite a parent-teacher conference, but it was after I got my first cell flip phone long ago, when they were just coming out. An 8th grader stole it. My wife called the phone and the guy who answered was dumb enough to give her his name. It was a parent who was using it. The kid confesses to taking it, and the parents came in. Admin confronted the parents about it, explaining that we just wanted the phone back. The parents tore into the kid for confessing he took the phone, and told him his birthday was cancelled for ratting on them. Parent was irate because I caught her 6th grade daughter cheating on a test. Parent said daughter was too stupid to cheat and kept calling her dumb and an idiot. The daughter was right next to her, hearing her mother talk all this negative shit about her. Absolutely broke my heart. An unintended one when an undergrad I was teaching requested a formal meeting with me, her mother, and the dean of the college at the university. She had received a 97% on an essay, and she and her mother were both in tears demanding that I be reprimanded and retrained for unfair grading policies. I think my mouth was agape the entire time. What did the dean think of the situation? He read it and said she can accept a regrade from him, but a cursory glance said that the paper was C quality according to his standards. One time a child peed all over the bathroom in the school. When we brought it up with the parent, they demanded to know why we didn't teach them how to properly use the bathroom. Once had a phone conference with a parent who accused me of forcing students to come to my house and build a garage for me. The parent said his son was being ostracized and punished by me for refusing to come to my house and work on my garage. The only thing I could do was laugh at him. I thought it was a prank and hung up on him. Next morning, I had to meet with my principal because the parent had called and threatened to call the local news media about my classroom if I wasn't immediately fired. The parent left screaming rant on my principal's voicemail. We listened to it a few times and got some good laughs. The parent claimed I was making the kids drive to my house during class, and if they didn't I was failing them. But his son had an hour in the class and the drive to my house was longer than the class period. The parent was obviously nuts, but it had to be treated as credible. So, there was an investigation and there may even be a report about it in my personnel file. I've had other weird interactions with parents, but that one definitely takes the cake. Former teacher. First parent-teacher conference. I put a lot of time into preparing this evening as an innocent 22-yo. I gave a 10-minute speech to about 15 family members. They didn't seem to care at all. Then I met with each individually, and they were combative. Some stunk of alcohol. One straight up yelled at me for my grading system. It was basically the beginning of the end of my interest in teaching. From the same parents' evening. Parents of a student with a name fancy enough they might as well have been called Lord and Lady Ashcroft. They greet me with "It's a pleasure to meet you. You aren't a cunt like all the other teachers" in very proper English. Was gobsmacked. Spoke to a colleague later who said, "Did you speak to X's parents?" They just sat down, called me a cunt and left. I had a student who was great at the work, but swore to an extent that would make a trooper blush. "Hey, how are you doing today?" For instance, would come out as ducking high. Ducking how the duck are you ducking doing you ducking gobshite? Suffice to say, I brought this up with his mother, who turned to him and said, "You ducking what? Ducking hell. We ducking talked about this, you anchor." I stopped policing his language after that. There wasn't any ducking point. Mean. It wasn't exactly a bad conference, but one time the mother of a 6-year-old second grader was pushing for her son to skip second grade and go to third grade. I tried pointing out that even though his reading and math skills were excellent, advancing him further would create a gap in his knowledge about science and social studies. Not to mention the fact that he is very immature and socially sticks out. She kept on insisting that age was just a number. Finally, I turned to both the mother and father and asked, when he is a 15-year-old senior in high school, what 18-year-old woman is going to want to go to prom with him? Then dad was like, "Hol up." The one where a parent told me it was unreasonable to expect my sophomore US history students to write a 5-paragraph essay. She claimed she had expertise as she used to be an English teacher. Honestly, though, I've been very lucky in my career to have never had a seriously bad parent-teacher conference. I had a parent-teacher conference where I basically got called a racist. The father was like, "Can't you see my son is not like other kids? Give him the benefit of the doubt," heavily indicating his race. This was after his son cheated on a test. The best part was the father was a vice principal at another school, but his son went to our expensive private school because he didn't want him in the public school he worked at. The kid eventually confessed. And to be 100% transparent, my school is incredibly diverse. He was far from the only kid there who was his race. Admin wasn't super supportive. They ended up fudging his grade to please the parents after I gave him the 0. They wanted me to do it, but I refused. I told admin they can do whatever they want with the gradebook, but I'm not touching it.